We're going to talk a lot about mindset. And a lot of people think that mindset is unrelated to wealth, but almost every single wealthy person that I have met really believes that their mindset has helped them to improve their wealth. And I'm in the middle right now of writing my second book. I got my first book here, which is Fire Yourself. The second book is called Rich Brain. It's how the wealthy change their brain to change their bank account. And so, writing the process of writing that book, I actually wrote the book, and then I realized I actually needed to spend a little more time and getting more opinions from others. So we're giving away basically a $10,000 trip to come spend time with, for you and a guest, spend a time with our Wealth Forum Mastermind, also several $100 Amazon gift cards, as well as a free copy of the book when it comes out. If you haven't filled this out, I'm just going to put this in the chat. Please take 5-10 minutes. Just go ahead and fill that out. If you're a millionaire, if you're somebody who has a net worth of more than $1 million, it's anonymous. It just helps us to kind of understand and track what are the things that are mindset related that people are wealthy do. So if you could do that, that would be very, very helpful. So again, if we have not met, my name is Bronson Hill. I'm the CEO of Bronson Equity. We've got about $250 million in multifamily assets. We've also gone after other assets such as oil and gas, car washes, other sorts of business related things, really to help people get cash flow. I think cash flow is super powerful today. And so we do that. We also provide educational events like this. We have a high net worth mastermind we'll hear a little bit more about called the Wealth Forum. So we have a small handful of people in there sharing deal flow. Awesome, Fidel. Good to see you, brother. And so very excited to get connected with you. I'm going to introduce our panelists. I'm going to welcome them up and then give them some introductions. So I will go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and welcome our panelists up that are backstage. So let me move you to the webinar. Awesome. And I'm going to give them an intro. So first of all, we have Christina Suter from Christina Suter Wealth Consulting. She was actually my mentor when I started in real estate and taught me a ton. And one thing I admire about Christina is she's also not just high net worth and into helping people develop high net worth or help, develop their investing skills, but also is really into mindset, because you can have all the money, but if you don't enjoy your life, what's the point, right? So that's really something that I'm pretty excited to be able to celebrate her. And then Tom Burns, another one of my favorite people, coming in from the Lone Star State, all the way in Austin. He said it's hot and muggy, but it definitely feels nice and fresh in the air-conditioned house. So welcome. And Rich Life Capital, awesome. That's great to have you, brother. I know you're doing masterminds. You have Carbon Capital. You're doing all kinds of deals. So welcome, welcome. Excited to have you guys here. We're going to have a great time talking about mindset, talking about wealth. If you have questions, you can go ahead as our audience. You can pop them in the chat there. We also have the Q&A box. We will get to more of them toward the end. So you might need to pop it in, at the beginning and then toward the end. And so anyway, super excited. Maybe you can put in who you're most excited to hear from, and super excited to have this going. So as we get started, let's go ahead and just talk about beliefs around wealth, because a lot of people think that all of a sudden you just, most people's plan to get wealthy is that you win the lottery or the rich uncle dies or something. But for most people, it actually starts first where you become the person. You change the beliefs and then you start doing what wealthy people do, and then you can have the things around wealth. So let's start with you, Tom. What's something about a belief around wealth that you had to unlearn that really changed everything for you? So we got you on mute there, brother. So
I had to learn how to unmute myself.
That's a big one.
Probably if I'd have muted myself during most of my career, I'd have probably done a lot better. Anyway, I tell you what, I came from I kind of started in the professional world. And so one of my flaws and continued flaws is thinking I just had to work harder to make more money. I had to do it myself. So I needed to unlearn the fact that others could do it close to as good as me or better, and I needed to learn how to delegate.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that you, and I know as a physician, a lot of physicians, we've had a conversation, how are you going to make more money? And they're like, I'm just going to work more. I'm going to do overtime, and changing that belief around the time for money trade. And I think it's most hard for wealthy people that, like physicians that make a lot of money when they go to work. And when you make money outside of what you do or unseparated from time, that's where it's really powerful.
Right. Yeah. And, get over that. The favorite song of that person is "Nobody Does It Better," right, than me. I did it my way, right? So, it's when you get paid a lot, you think that train's always going to keep running. But, one virus or one misstep and step in front of a bus and, the music stops. So I got that message pretty early. I just didn't get the delegation message till a little later in the career.
Yeah, and that's something I think on the delegation side for anybody. I notice a lot of people that come to our events are business owners or professionals or, get paid a lot of money. And it's just, I've realized if somebody can do it on my team that's 80% as good as I can do it, it's probably good enough, and I had to let go of some of that perfectionist stuff and just be like, okay, well, we can coach people, we can work with them, but it can be challenging to let go. So I get that. That's great. Christina, what about you? You obviously have done a lot of mindset work over the years, really admire all that. And talk to us a little bit about something that you had to unlearn or a belief that you changed that really changed everything for you.
Waiting until I was rich enough, waiting until I could someday afford it, waiting until there was enough abundance that I could finally be peaceful, calm, happy, have time, freedom, whatever it was. That money was the thing that I needed to have enough of to finally have the life I dreamed of having. And I would say that, that's just not accurate. That there's waiting for wealth beyond a basic, can you cover your rent? Can you cover your car payment? Can you cover your medical? That when you understand that that money serves on a survival level to a certain period, and everything above that is wealth. Everything beyond that is freedom. Everything beyond that is choice. Instead of waiting for up here, oh no, and when I have all this up here, then I'll have choice. No. Right here. You take your just core expenses and everything above that is choice and is freedom. And so why not live freedom today? Why not live that commitment to wealth today? I'm going to suggest the thing you're actually waiting for isn't actually the money. What you're waiting for is your own permission to say, today is the day I'm committing to having a life I want. Today is the day I'm committing to building my wealth. Today is the day I'm going to become an investor. Today I'm committing. Then your life has a greater sense of purpose and direction. Even if you're working long hours, you're working long hours to create that freedom, and you can trust yourself to create the freedom you're looking for versus waiting until someday.
Yeah, exactly. And people that wait for someday never comes around, right? The idea that it will happen someday, it just really never does. And I think that, for so many people, actually, if you just want to put in the chat, I just love to see some people's comments, like what's a limiting belief that you were raised with, right? That you were told, money doesn't grow on trees, or, you can't always get what you want, or things like that. Or maybe that money is the root of all evil, or things that, might be limiting. If you get, some of you guys are out driving and things like that, but we have a good crowd here. So I'd love to hear just from you guys, what are some of the things? Yeah, the debt is bad. Yeah, absolutely. Some people think debt is bad. And so I think that's really a big one. To want money is a sin. Yeah, exactly. Some people think that. Learning that money isn't the goal, but it is a tool to use. So that's great. So I like the idea of stewardship, right? That we have a limited amount of time. We're stewarding what we got. So that's great. Rich people are greedy and selfish. Boy, that's a big one. Let's talk about that one for a minute. Did you guys ever feel that way?
Yeah, that one's from Glenn. I love it. No, okay. Absolutely. Rich people are greedy and selfish. I had to answer my daughter on that one. I don't know that I ever felt that rich people were inherently greedy or selfish. But my daughter was asking me questions about, hey, Mom, you're in real estate, and YouTube talks about all these bad landlords who are greedy and selfish. And she kind of wanted to cross-check to see if I was one of those greedy, selfish landlords. I found it fascinating, right? Like I literally in order to sort of assuage her, I had come up with these examples of when you choose your ethics or you choose your value over money, when you choose taking care of a tenant, right? And understanding there's a lot of good that can be done. Not necessarily good like, oh, gee, they can walk all over me, but good like understanding maybe they're not living in the right situation. Maybe there's something better for them, or maybe you do hold for them while they're sick with cancer. There are ethical choices that you can make that still protect and hold your bottom line. And the operative word in there is protect. Protect yourself and others, because you're just as valuable as your tenants are, and your tenants are just as valuable as you are.
Tom, what's your thoughts on that quote?
I don't think I knew hardly. I either didn't know any rich people when I was growing up, or I didn't know they were rich. So I kind of never had that thought. And the honest answer is most people, most if you're speaking monetarily, most monetarily wealthy people have gotten there by being generous. Steve Jobs gave us a great phone and great computers, and Mark Zuckerberg ruined our lives with a great social media app, that sort of thing. So it could be any kind of widget or product that somebody sells, and if it wasn't for the wealthy, we wouldn't have a lot of jobs and things like that. So That never really was in my vernacular that the rich are greedy. People are greedy and selfish, but they can be rich, they can be poor. But people can certainly be greedy and selfish.
Yeah, I just launched a poll here, guys. So if you can respond, which of those, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, dishonest. Just which one of those were you raised with? So go ahead and answer that. Hopefully, get a good response there. The problem, I think, and the reason I think I like that one as a topic, that rich people are greedy or dishonest, is that it's kind of sneaky. Like you don't realize it, but if you believe that or if you say that, then you are subconsciously limiting your ability to become wealthy.
You are.
Right? Because you're basically saying like, oh, they're greedy and like they're not, you're actually creating resistance in yourself. They'll prevent you from getting money. And so, obviously this stuff is kind of what we know, but it's
a multi-step process and you hit one of the steps. So I have something that happens to me that I feel like I can't defend myself against. I get upset and I get angry. And therefore I want to say it's that person over there and they're greedy. They did it to me, right? And I'm not saying that 100% of the time that this is scenario. Sometimes it does happen to you. Okay, so I'm not saying that. But I am saying sometimes you feel overwhelmed and incapable and you want to point the finger outside yourself. You want to say that person is greedy. That's why this is happening. Right? And then from there you go, well then, so now I've made this judgment about greed, about money, which reaffirms my position that money is bad, which confirms that I shouldn't have the money to take care of myself. Yeah. So you end up creating a loop, a feedback loop that does keep you in the concept of, well, money's not good. And so therefore I shouldn't have it. And so therefore I stay without it. So therefore I stay without the capacity to fulfill my dreams, or without the capacity to just stand in my joy and my dream. Like, what's wrong with standing in your dream? You can stand in your dream. It's okay.
Yeah. It's so true. I just returned the poll results here. About half the people participate, and money doesn't grow on trees. That's a big one we were told, or we believe when we were younger, or you have to work hard for every dollar. But we all know people that work super hard and it doesn't actually benefit them, right? They don't actually get a benefit out of it. So let's talk for a minute. Let's shift this a little bit and go into, I think, Warren Buffett was asked, he said, somebody asked him, what's the most important thing, the most important character trait to be a great investor, right? What's the quality that you need to have? And he thought about it and he said, temperament. Temperament is to not panic when everybody else is panicked, or to move in when people are moving out. So what do you think, like, how do you personally, we'll start with Tom on this, how do you personally stay calm during economic or market uncertainty?
I'm not sure if I have stayed calm or not. I actually have.
Tom, you're a pretty calm guy.
Good job,
I don't think
Tom.
I've ever seen you.
Well
get really
said. I'm gonna give him credit for that one.
But it's when you start getting the gray hairs like I have, you realize life is waves. What goes up must come down, and when you've seen it happen, then you know that it may not be the same, but it rhymes a little bit. You just know that things are going to turn around. That's one thing. And it depends on what you're thinking about, what the market is. Again, maybe the real estate market's down, maybe the stock market's down, whatever. Things are going to go in different cycles, and some are counter-cyclical. But what I look at is, am I healthy? Do I have a family that loves me? Can I go play tennis? Can I go maybe travel a little bit? Those sort of things, because that money is only one sliver, one pillar of wealth. And the rest of it, we have a lot of other wealth out there, our social, our spiritual, our experiential, that sort of thing. So I sort of sit back and use a little bit of perspective and realize that, there's a lot of people in the world that would probably really love to be where I am, even when I'm bitching about where the market is. So perspective is a pretty important thing. So I would say that I use a little perspective, a little gratitude, and an occasional prayer.
I love it. Yeah. And it's interesting about prayer. I just had a conversation with somebody about this. In the Bible, Jesus talked more about money than heaven or hell. A lot of people don't think money's very spiritual, but apparently there's a lot of values that come out. And people say if you're a jerk and you have money, you'll be more of a jerk with money, right? And we've seen that. We've seen people that just live pretty terrible. And there's people that, are the kindest people. They become more kind, more generous with more resources, which is incredible. Christina, how about you? How do you manage your temperament when things are rocky in the market?
All right. So your original question was actually two questions. One was, what is it that makes you successful as a investor, right? Whether that's resilience or mindset. But the other is, how do you handle a downturn? So I'm going to say ditto to what Tom just said. So I started investing in 1986 when I was 17 years old. So I'm an old lady. And although I don't have the gray hair to show it, I am an older lady. I almost wish I did have gray hair. I want a gray streak right here. Can I have that? No. Moving on.
trade
The
you
point
some.
is, okay, right here. Can I borrow those, Tom? But the point is that one, you learn their cycles and you learn there's breathing in and there's breathing out. And when you've seen 3 or 4 different downturns, and there's always that black swan event in each one, and maybe you saw it coming, maybe you didn't see it coming, maybe you were smart, maybe you weren't smart. I've learned it doesn't actually have to do with my IQ or my smartness, that it really is something where a wave comes and it comes up and down. And it's a little like fighting with the ocean. Like, I'm going to be mad that the ocean's got a wave coming at me, and it's like, can you do that? Can you surf the waves? And underneath that is what you said earlier to me, which is stewardship, right? Having your money in such a way that you understand this is your living expenses core. This is the stuff that's discretionary. I've had to cut my budget in half more than once in my lifetime. Like, literally, I'm like, okay, I'm spending this much right now. Woohoo, yay, I'm having a good time. Wow. And then I'm like, okay, guys, no trip this year. Okay, guys, no sushi to this month. Okay, guys, like just cut that budget in half. Just aggressively, actively, intentionally go, okay, we're on a downward cycle. So stewardship. And being able to understand there's a coreness to your investment strategy that supports you. And then there's all of this that can be more vulnerable, and it has to do with allotment and for me, allotment and diversification schedules that I create inside my portfolio so that I feel safer, because cycles aren't fun. They kind of suck, but they happen. And in the bottom of a cycle, you're able to say, when you look at enough of the charts, you're like, yeah, it always goes back up. Oh, yep, this S&P went back, always goes back up. Stocks always go back up. Dow Jones goes back up. Hey, real estate goes back up. Everything goes back up in the end result. It's just the bottom of the trough doesn't feel any good. Just kind of downright sucks. And how do you keep your mentality straight?
I think too, it's interesting. A lot of, the stock market has become, it's so liquid. You can buy and sell instantly. And so I actually like, from the type of investments that I buy, I try to buy things that are less liquid. And sometimes there's a disadvantage of illiquidity because you can't just sell it and get it when you need it. But on the good side, you can't just sell it instantly. Even real estate, it's like, it takes months sometimes to sell property. So you're not just going to panic and sell something. So sometimes even the type of investment you buy can really help you with managing that well. So, awesome.
Diversification is part of my diversification across assets, stocks, real estate, notes, some gold and silver, right? Some people love I'm going to say digital currency. Don't want to call it just Bitcoin, digital currency. There are a lot of choices now for being able to be an investor versus being a real estate person.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you this. There's a lot of gurus out there giving advice, right? We have Dave Ramsey says, don't get into debt ever. We have people saying, all kinds of things, right? So what do you think financial advice do you think is the most dangerous today? Obviously there's things of being too conservative or being too aggressive. Tom, let's start with you. What do you think, really is the most dangerous financial advice that you see that's very common?
I get a little worried when the guy that's giving the advice makes more money out of selling the classes to give the advice than he does out of doing the thing that he's teaching. Yeah. He or she, pardon me on the gender gap there.
Thank you, Tom.
But that certainly makes you nervous. And there's a lot of that out there. And then there's, I'm thinking marketing, life is marketing. I'm telling you, marketing trumps substance. That is one thing. Absolutely. People that are good online are going to bring in people. And
that's true.
I guess if I told you can double your money by tomorrow afternoon, you're going to want to invest with me as opposed to the person that's going to give you 8%. But, just don't look for the quick win. Compounding really is magic, but it does take a little bit of time. And that's how most investing really works. There's the rare black swan, or white swan, I should say, where you'll make something quickly. But so I think making it fast and it's fast, it's easy, and gosh, I can show you my client who I did it for. So
yeah, it's almost like that quote that says, good investing should be like watching paint dry, right?
Right on. Right on.
You want excitement in your life, take $800 to go to Vegas, right? That's the quote where it's like, they're totally different things, right?
And that doesn't do well on social media, but that's the honest truth. That's the way, that's how investing goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then go
go
ahead,
ahead.
please.
I was just going to say, I agree with Tom and Mark who in the chat. It's slow and steady that wins the race, and it's a marathon. Compounding is something that happens inherently over time. Tom said it beautifully. Right? It takes time to physically work. I think anything that's fear-based, like you're not going to stay up with inflation. Oh my God, you need to. Or, gee, the world is falling apart, so you better buy into this or buy into that, or sell this or sell that, or don't trust this or don't trust that. Anything that's fear-based. And then the other is greed, right? Like Tom talked about, there's greed. Right? It's going to happen tonight. We're going to do it right away. You're going to get 20%. I found it funny. I had some guys, great guys, who showed up to my real estate meeting, and they wore badges saying, we can make you 20%. And after about 5 or 6 months of them doing that, they pulled me aside and went, Christina, how come we're not getting more clients? And I'm like, because a lot of people who are experienced investors know that you don't make 20% without too much risk. So they don't want to get 20% return. They want to get a safe return. For those of us who want long, slow, steady results, we're looking for 6, 8, 10, 12. You start getting too high above 14, and I start going, so tell me a lot more about this investment, like a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, it is something that's counterintuitive. When I first started, it was like, oh, a 20% projected return's got to be better than like a 15% or a 12%. But really great operators, often they'll project a 12% or 13%, and then they'll end up with a 15% or something. That's so much better than saying you're going to have a 20% and end up with an 18. It's just, you're basically under promising and over delivering. And I think that one of the traps, you guys are absolutely right, is that we're all going to get rich quick. And I think there are ways to do it. There are things that we do, deals that have big upside, but I tell our investors, hey, this deal is a potential 10 to 100x. But I think there's probably, a good chance it goes to 0, right? So you've got to be okay with that, right? Like there's probably an equal chance, no matter how good the stuff looks. And so I think the higher the returns, the more things can go wrong in a deal for sure. Let's touch base on this too. I guess, Tom, I want you to talk about this because we've talked a bit about this too. How did you stop trading time for money? As a physician, you're making a lot of money, but it's still a dollars for minutes or dollar for procedure type of thing. So why do like wealthy people get in that trap, and how do you get out of that?
So yeah, why did they get in? Well, you answered it earlier. Why did they get in? Well, it's just so easy to make that extra bit of money. 35 years ago, I remember talking to a doctor saying, if you put in a certain amount of money now, not much will happen for a year, but after that year, you'll start getting $1,000 a month. In return, in perpetuity, or until you sell the product. So that's probably a 12% return. And the guy looked at me like, why would I do that? I can go work in the emergency room tomorrow night and make that $1,000. I said, you can. That's true. You can do that. I said, what will you do next month? And he said, well, I'll go back to the emergency room. I asked him a few times, and he never really got the deal. But point being, is you get used to getting paid like that. You get used to thinking that you're invincible and that you're never going to get old, you're never going to get sick, and you're never going to want to see your kids. So that's kind of why maybe some of them don't get into it. And how do you get out? I got out because I was still training. I was still a poor student when I realized I wanted to have a little more control of my time and my life, and I wanted to have fun and didn't want somebody to tell me what to do. So I did probably what Christina and I would teach is, I invested frugally, and compounding did the job over about 10 years. So It was pretty simple.
Well,
mine was also a compounding story. But basically, I worked in childcare, and I was also a teacher, elementary teacher. And I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be at school by 9:30, 9:45, because I'm not a huge morning person. And then by 3 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be done. And then I had to work on being able to create lesson plans for the future and da-da-da. And I remember waking up in the morning, getting out of bed, walking to my clothes, going, let me off the carousel. Please just get me off the carousel. And I literally called it a carousel, don't know why, but that is literally how I felt. And I was just like, I need a different solution. And I guess that's when I became very clear that the heart of the entrepreneur doesn't like having the same thing every day, every night, every afternoon. I liked teaching. I love kids. but it put me on a carousel that I just literally found exhausting. And I don't know if it's because I didn't know myself, or I didn't have time for myself, which is hugely important, or if I didn't feel like I had choice over creating something, right? What is it that what is it that I was lacking? And what I discovered was I love leadership. I love making a difference. I love being an entrepreneur, but I love teaching, but teaching on a free schedule, right? Not a get up, get exhausted, do this and do it again. I also discovered I'm better at real estate. I'm sorry, but I'm actually better at real estate than I was as a teacher. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I think it's funny how for me it was similar, where I started getting some cash flow from one single family property I had for years, and it was $100, $200, and it was $400 a month over time. And I was like, hey, this is pretty nice. And I started to it's the weirdest thing. It's like you can talk it through and make sense, but once you start getting cash flow, it's like, oh wow, this is compounding without me doing anything. It's a weird thing. But Tom, to your point, a lot of people just don't get it. Warren Buffett would say, hey, in investing, we're trying to look for dollar bills, and we're paying 40 cents for dollar bills. A lot of people just don't get that. Well, if it existed, it wouldn't be there, right? So wanted to ask you, just both of you guys, we'll kind of get into mine as well, but what's it could be a morning routine, but what is do you have a daily mindset routine? This is, again, that survey I put in the chat. If you haven't filled it out, please take 5-10 minutes, fill it out when you get a chance. But what is your morning routine? What is your mindset daily routine? Let's start with Christina on this one.
So I call it pray, ground, and meditate. So literally prayer first, and then good morning, God. Hello, I'm here. Love it. Thank you. Some gratitude along with that. And then ground, which is literally a process of just grounding myself in my body, getting myself calmer, which is a relaxation exercise. And then I meditate, and I might meditate for 20 minutes. I might meditate for an hour and a half, 20 minutes most weekday mornings, maybe an hour on the weekend. And then I'll recenter whenever I start finding myself speeding up or getting the afternoon tiredness. Just sit my ass down for 15 minutes and re-pray and center. Maybe I meditate, maybe I don't. And then at night, I definitely try to do some gratitudes, and I meditate my way into sleeping. Bad habit for those true meditation teachers. I know you're not supposed to meditate your way into sleeping. You're supposed to meditate and then go to sleep. I understand they are not the same process, but it's the truth. And I have some really solid affirmation statements I love. I have spent time cultivating them from the place of joy, loving belief, excitement inside myself. And I love saying them, and I love thinking about them, and I love running them through my brain, because it feels like I'm committing to that life I say I want to have. Whether it's happening exactly the way I want it to today or not, I'm committing to that is who I'm going to be. That's the life I'm living, and I'm working my way, living my way, breathing my way, loving my way towards that life. Yeah. Doesn't have to be today. And it's the breathing, loving, and living that I think is the thing we actually really want to have.
100%. Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. Tom, what about you? What do you do? What does your daily mindset routine look like?
It sounds like I have a lot to learn. I get up, drink coffee, and I do write in my journal. And I end it with just some gratitude about 3 things. It could be that, there's no dirt under my fingernails. It could be something that small, or it could be, thank you for whatever. And then my meditation is either in the woods or in the gym. That's where I go do that. So I go work out, I go to the gym, I go jump on a tennis court, and, clears the mind and makes the rest of the day kind of fun to come back. And, there's always, during those times you can come up with your plan for the day, which is usually set the day before. For me, I'll usually try to set the plan, but that'll help me come in energized and ready to do the work. And then sit down and watch Big Bang Theory in the afternoon when I get tired, instead of meditating like Christina does.
Hey, we got to do what we got to do. We got to make sure.
Yeah, I like Glenn's comment, Avril's comment, and Joe's comment in particular. Like, just any one of those works. Whether it's journaling or whether it's, reading, prayer, listening to Abundant Mindset podcasts, something that just keeps refocusing the mind.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, and I love hearing what people do, because the more I talk to people that have high net worth, a lot of times they have a practice around minds. I mean, I haven't call it a practice, but they have things they do. So for me, I do my daily whisperings, which I think affirmations are great because they're kind of what you say in the mirror. Whisperings are like what you say to yourself when you stub your toe or when something doesn't go well or throughout your day. We talk to ourselves. What are we saying? So I kind of prep myself with those. I do my God story, which is ways that I've seen God work in my life. I'm grateful for those things. I read my goals, my mission statement. There's a priming exercise. I put the link into the priming exercise. There's a Tony Robbins exercise, and I get into the power of that here in a second. I go on a walk for 15 minutes, then I do an audio Bible. But this priming thing has become super powerful because he gives an example. I'm just going to share the story real quick, but he gives an example of a study Harvard Medical School, or somebody did. I think it was in the Harvard system. They did it, and basically they had 100 people sitting in a park just randomly, and they came around with where a bunch of actors went around, and they said, "Hey, can you hold this for a minute?" And when they said, "Have them hold their drink," and then unbeknownst to them, they came back, like another group of people came back with a clipboard 10 or 15 minutes later, said, "Hey, I've got $20 for you if you can have 3 minutes of your time." And 90% of the people say yes. And they say, "Okay, I want you to tell me, when I read the story of this character for you, describe them to me." And half the people got hot coffee that they were holding. So literally the person would hold the hot coffee for just a minute while the person was on their phone. "Oh, thanks so much." Took the back. So again, this was prior. This is 15 minutes or so prior. And the person that had hot coffee, 81% of those people said the character in the story that was read was warm and inviting. Again, big gap, much later. And then the ones that got cold coffee, they said that the person was cold and distant. Right. So we're very primed just by the things that happen to us. Isn't that wild, Tom? I see your face there. It's great. So they didn't know they were primed, but they were. So the way this exercise, you prime yourself, is you get into a place of gratitude where you enter into experiencing several moments of your life where you relive them. Right. I relive the moment where my daughter was born. I remember the joy when she came out. I remember when I had a bigger success at work. And I remember those things. And it does help to really prime you. So I hear just in the chat here, Miracle Morning, there's other things people are doing. We can kind of get into some more of that in a minute. I do have some questions for each of you as well. Anybody have any comments on that before we move on from that? Okay, you guys are good. We covered it all.
Story.
It's a great story. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about this. What failure in your life, or what setback taught you about like the most powerful wealth mindset? Was there something you can remember about? I failed at this. This didn't go well. A deal didn't go. Something happened, and there was a reframe, or somehow I got myself in a way that actually really helped my wealth mindset.
Which one do you want us to go first? Tom, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go for it. Go ahead.
I got a story. All
Yes.
right. So I remember the moment because it's very distinctive. So 2009. Do we all remember 2009? Those of us who are investors remember 2009 probably viscerally. 2009, I'm sitting at my desk, the same desk I have right now in my office. And I was going through my portfolio again and seeing that I probably lost about another $100,000 that month in the value of my portfolio, because that's what was happening to my portfolio at the time. And I was, banks were calling me because I had some strategic short sales I was trying to do. And I had already spent $450,000 holding my portfolio up as best as I could. And it wasn't working. My husband and I were fighting, and I felt like a big fat loser. I thought I was smart. I thought I was great. I thought it was wonderful. Look at that. Woohoo. I've been investing since 86. I, built my wealth from here to here to here. Da da da. I'm a rock star. Yeah, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not a rock star. And I remember staring at the computer screen and just going, I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm done. I'm just done. I'm done. I'm done with investing. I'm done with this bullshit. I'll just go back. I'll be a teacher. I'll find something else. I'm done. And then I thought, but would I respect myself? Would I like myself? If I stopped being an investor, like my husband was asking me to do, if I stopped being an investor, would I like myself when I was 80 years old? Would I respect the life I had lived? No, I wouldn't. I literally wouldn't. And so I said, well, if that's the case, then I better dust myself off and stand up and make all these phone calls and straighten it out. Whatever it is, straighten it out. Make it right. Make it straight. And I did. I sold everything. Sold every door I had. I had about 350 doors at the time between me and some partners, and I sold out of everything. My daughter was born in October of 2009, so this was particularly important. And I converted what money I had left over to hard money loans, and I focused on regrowing my wealth and growing my daughter. But what I learned in that moment wasn't just about the self-respect, which was hugely important. It was that why I invested the way I invested, who I was as a being, I wanted to achieve something that wasn't actually related to money. I wanted to achieve something that was related to self-respect. Something I was being a person that I respected, and the platform I did that on was real estate. And so it changed my understanding of the purpose of investing to being a tool to help me get to being the mom I wanted to be, get to being the human being of value and integrity I want to be, get to being able to be a contributor in my community, because my respect was really the thing I was seeking.
Right. Huge. That's huge. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of times we bring it into a worthiness thing, right? That we're not worthy if something doesn't go well. And, but that's a completely different conversation. So well done. Tom, what about you? What's a failure that kind of led you to get the mindset you have now, or led you in the right direction?
Probably the fact that, I'm from Texas, and, I've literally truly made a 7-figure handshake deal before.
Nice.
But
That's a Texas deal right there.
Yeah, I mean, it
is.
It wasn't that scary. It was a person you knew was anyway. But the reason
Still a good deal.
Yeah, the reason I preface that is that I found out that, I did pretty good diligence. I'm a pretty nice guy, but I guess the short answer is I found out I was naive. And it was really painful to realize I'd been around for 20 something years and was still naive about how bad people can take your money. That's kind of the short answer. And so a little bit later in my journey, I learned that there are some really, really smart people out there that want to come take your money and others. And so it has changed my diligence process drastically, or it's really shined it up. I'll put it that way. So anyway, that's so that failure made me a better investor for me and my particular investors as well. So we always try to take whatever little failure and turn that into a positive. So I think it's going to work well over the next 20 years.
That's, Tom, we were really blessed to have you come to our group in Austin, our Wealth Forum group, with a handful of people, and talk about how to spot the wolf before he spots you. And you had all these things of like what to notice. And it was such a great, I know Christina was there as well.
Great.
Such a
great presentation, Tom.
Such a great, yeah. And there was so many takeaways, and I appreciate, for both of you sharing those stories, but also like, it can feel like you said, I've been doing this 20 years, I should know. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge when we go through, and I've seen investors, especially the last few years, go through serious setbacks, ourselves and myself included. We've had deals that I invested in passively that there's been losses on. There's been things, I love to say I'm perfect at this and nothing's ever gone wrong. It's gone wrong, both on my passive side as well as deals we've partnered with, right? We brought investors to stuff, and that's a hard conversation, right? Tell an investor, hey, I'm sorry, this deal didn't go well and we lost money or didn't go as planned. That's a really hard conversation for a lot of people. So I think separating some of the worth from that, for me, one of the biggest ones that I learned from was, and I talk about this in my book, where at the time, this was years ago, I was doing medical sales and I was trading options, and I'd made $20,000 over the last 4 or 5 months. And I had using this trading strategy called an iron condor. You can look it up. And anytime any options trading strategy is always suspect enough, but when there's an animal involved in a trading strategy, it's probably not
even
good.
more suspicious.
And so, so I made $20,000.
Good to know.
And then net worth of $200K, I lost $70,000 in one day. Right. I mean, it was just really painful. And I was like, oh my gosh, so defeating. And what was I going to, how am I going to, stomach this? And what I realized is, like, I learned something that day. I really learned that, that is not my best seat on the bus. I'm better at analyzing other types of deals. I'm not the engineer type that'll pulling levers and do all this stuff. And that's okay. Right. So I learned some things about it. But the biggest thing is not to let those things really become like identity, right? Not to let them become identity. So I want to take a short pause here for a minute. I want to check in with you guys. Can you guys give them some love? You're in this awesome. You can guys just say, hey, what a great job they're doing to be able to share all this and share these stories. We're going to take some questions here in a minute. So just give them some love, either an emoji or you can do just put something in the chat there. Let them know they're doing awesome, because I just love these stories they're sharing. I wanted to share something with you as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We do have something that we've just started. It's called the Wealth Forum Starter Packs. We have our high-end, high ticket event that we do. And we started one that basically does deal flow discussions. We have about $3,000 worth of bonuses in there as well. And we're doing it for free. So I put the link in there. I'm going to share my screen. So if you wanted to scan scan the QR code here, basically what it's kind of what's listed here. So basically over $2,000 worth of courses, you get a high level masterminding or you're checking in with other people. There's deal flow, and it's all in one place. So if you scan that QR code, you can get it, or you click the link. And again, it's just a free group. We really want to try to create the highest caliber of people in the room that we can. There's no specific vetted deals, but we are sharing deals. We're sharing feedback. We're sharing honestly. And it's just been really awesome. So we just launched that. I think we just launched this weekend. We've already got 30 people in there or something. These are all high net worth people. So if you're looking for a good group, that would be a great place to join. So go ahead and check that out. And then I'm going to kind of put it back out to the audience here and just see what is it that you want to ask our audience. I know there'll be some questions there. I have a million more questions, but would love to have you ask some questions. I see one from, and so you can put them in the Q&A area or the chat area. But I see here it says, Mark is asking, how do you regain trust, right? When trust is broken, and I guess I don't know what context he's speaking about. Let's just say it's in regards to a partner or a deal. How do you regain trust? Or is once trust broken, is that kind of it? And hey, you've shown me your true colors and it's time to move on. I'd love to know what that looks like. Whoever wants to jump in.
I'll start first since
Yep.
I ended.
Tom's, yeah.
You want to say you never say never. Always want to be try to balance and say and not say never, but potential you don't. As Bronson started out, when somebody breaks that trust, it's like Wall Street bulls and bears, right? Up to the stairs and out by the window. It takes 20 years to build a reputation. It takes seconds to trash that reputation. And if somebody breaks your trust in a significant way, whether it costs you money or time or just irritation, but truly breaking, because that's a sacred thing. And when it comes to partner, it's a sacred thing in marriage, and it's a sacred thing between you and your kids and your partners. So it is hard to get it back. I would say I would think it would take years, and there'd have to be some training wheels on that relationship in order to get that trust back, because you always want to try to give people a second chance at a lot of things. But it's hard to give them a second chance when they bust your trust. So
yeah. 100%. Yeah, it takes seconds to break trust, takes years to get it back, and it obviously depends how big the breach is of trust and what that looks like. Christina, what about you? How do you see rebuilding trust, or is it what we just?
I'm with that. I'm going to say two things, if I may. First is, if somebody breaks your trust, a person breaks your trust, and you truly can see that they broke your trust, having to do with ethics and value. It's an ethics and value thing. You can't really double back on that. It is what it is, right? But then I had this experience where I was working with a client. So I'm investment advisor, right? Real estate investment advisor. I was working with a client on a deal that I had recommended. So I was helping them sort it out. And the guy who ran the company, we kept having these conversations with him in the phone call. And I could see he as a human being, sincerely regretted that his company was sitting in the position it was sitting in and trying to solve these problems. And he was trying to give my clients a solution that was at least 2/3 of their wealth back. And my clients ended up not taking it, and then they lost all of it. That's another story for another day. So I think what I've learned over time is to differentiate the conversation, that there's a difference between what they're doing, values and ethics, the deal falling apart, and then the trust in myself to be capable of making a decision. Because there's a point where you have enough of this distrust that happens, things that go wrong, that you start to doubt your capacity as an investor. And I think Tom and I talked a little bit about that earlier, which is after a while you learn that 1 out of 9 deals go wrong. And they do go wrong. And they go wrong with good people and they go wrong with not good people, but they do go wrong. And there's a certain amount of, if you're going to trust yourself as an investor, there's an acceptance of it goes wrong. And who are you going to blame if it goes wrong? Or are you not going to blame and accept that the cycles are the cycles? Because blame isn't necessary and shame isn't necessary in order to be a successful investor. You don't actually need to shame self, shame others, or blame self or blame others, even though that is the first thing we want to do. But it's actually not required in order to be a good investor. Diligence and discernment. Discernment between, is it a good deal versus this is my friend? Discernment between, this is a wolf, this is somebody who's going to take advantage of me, or this is somebody who's not going to take advantage of me, but guess what? The deal might still fail because it just didn't work out. There's discernments that can happen there that will help you reestablish trust with others and with yourself.
Yeah, I love that, because there's so many aspects of it, right? It's trust for others. Sometimes, like we said, the breach could be somebody stole money, or it could be a real lying there. It could be like, hey, there's something minor that came up, and it's this happens in relationships, right? With friendships or other things. I think we all have had stories where people have broken trust, or they've done things, and how do we evaluate that? And then when something bad happens, I always feel like, we talked about this before we started recording, that like the person who's a blamer, right? They're just not typically a safe person. And the problem is when we blame, we try to put that on somebody else. We also just don't learn. We don't learn the lessons. It's always someone else. It's always something else. And then the person who shames himself, like that sucks. Because then I've seen people just get totally frozen up and they never want to do anything again in the space, or it's this person, wronged you, but shame on me. And it's like, well, that doesn't work either. So there's a lot we could talk about with that, but I think how we approach others and we approach ourselves is very important. We're getting some questions actually about wealth and real estate, less mindset, but more real estate. So we can either do mindset, or again, these both are very successful in real estate and have done all kinds of different things. What does it mean? So I think, Christina, maybe you were talking about making money from debt in real estate. Mm-hmm. We talk about, I think these days, being the bank or being on the debt side is a safer way in the stack to make. Can you just touch base on that briefly?
I think it's important, and I think people miss it, at least I missed it. I missed it for the first 20 years of my investing, that the debt position was actually safer than an equity position, right? Yeah. So if you have a note against something, whether it's a single family or a multifamily, I don't care what it is, but if you have the note against something, there is, maybe everybody knows this or doesn't, but the IRS gets paid first. Then the first position note gets paid next. Then the second position, the equity gets paid last, right? And you can get preferred debt, right? You can get mezzanine debt, which makes you even more preferred. It can be somewhere between the first or second position or above the first, depending upon how the mezzanine debt is written. But debt usually gives you a lower return, but it gives you a higher safety because you're paid first. So a debt position can be incredibly helpful in being able to get a stabilized return, because debt usually has a set interest rate associated with it that they're supposed to pay you at a set time frame, versus equity, which is, hey, when we get there, we're going to pay you.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Let's have Tom answer this next question. Tom, if you had 5 years to build wealth from scratch, what would you do?
Oh, geez, I'd rob a bank.
No, you wouldn't, Tom. Tom, you're so full of it. No, you wouldn't.
If I couldn't do that.
Okay,
if I couldn't do that. Fine. The first thing, to get wealthy. So I assume you mean making money, because again, I'll reiterate, wealth has a lot of things that hold it up, and one of those tools is money. But if you wanted to make a lot of money, I would first kind of solidify why I wanted to do that. And certainly get beyond survival. So of course you need the money to survive. I'd figure out why I wanted to do it. I would go start learning how to do it. And the reason I'm not saying real estate or stocks, because there's an infinite number of ways to make money. So if it was Tom Burns, I'd probably go look for some distressed property or to go build something. But, I'd get educated about something that's going to make me money. I would go get in a network of people that were also excited about that kind of thing. I'd find somebody on the road that's already been where I want to be, that's coming back from where I want to be, and I'd ask them how to get there faster. Essentially, I'd get a mentor and a coach. And, maybe that coach would be a partner. Maybe I'd find another partner. And over time, using that leverage, I'd start small and just compound it up. And one thing I'll say about what Christine was talking about, debt can make you wealthy on the equity side as well, just because of its leverage. If you put in half the money, the bank puts in the other half of the money, you get 100% of the appreciation and the cash flow after you pay the debt. So don't forget, there's two sides of the capital stack. There's the debt and the equity. So
yes, Tom, well said. Well said. And I would have to just repeat what Tom said about, get yourself investing, get yourself educated, get yourself in a group, get yourself with a mentor, and get yourself investing.
And get in the game.
Get in the
do
game.
Something.
Get in the game.
Do something, because that's where you're going to get the best lessons, And so start a little bit small, because you're going to screw up somewhere. You're going to fail somewhere. I know that sounds bad to some people, but Ryan Holiday would say that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
fail forward faster.
If you're going to get a lesson, why not buy it at a discount? Start small rather than putting a big bunch of money into something, so you can learn your lessons and you'll know when to go big later.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Christina, what about you? What would you do to generate wealth in 5 years if you didn't have wealth?
I ditto with what Tom said. Here's the difficulty is 5 years has a time limit on it. So here's kind of my answer, if I may tweak it a little bit. I think the important thing is you can build wealth in 5 years, but why stop at 5 years?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to put a time frame on it called 5 years, that's my concern.
Yeah.
Right. That's my concern from there is that why are you thinking that 5 years is what you've got? So I need to plug my computer in. So
okay. All right.
And I tell you, if you're thinking 5 years, you might have to up your risk profile. And so, 10 years make that a lot easier. So
yeah, I agree. I think if I had 5 years, and again, just what in the next, and I think it's just what steps you make. And I think you look at Warren Buffett, how he became so wealthy. It was like he did the right things for a very consistent amount of time and learned and made changes. And he just did it more than anybody else and better than anybody else. So I think what I would do is, I told somebody this earlier today, especially a younger person, I would just go around, try to get around someone that I respect the most in investing and just go work for them for free or find a way to serve them and help them, and just you get a job, even working for, just find a way to be around them, and then, or work for their organization and just learn everything I can. And then if I could do that, I could basically take what they've done and either find a way to partner or find a way to take those skills and be able to learn. And I've done that. I partnered with a great multifamily syndicator. We went from I raised $100,000. And then because of that partnership, we raised $15 million together. Like that was immediately after that, right? So I had some skill, some knowledge. I ran a meetup, but it was like, that was a huge move for me. So, anyway, we're getting a couple more questions here. Let's take this one here. I see from Steve here, people making money in real estate. There's a question about accessing the equity in home to buy more properties. According to Texas laws, I can't do that. So I will say this, if you go get a home equity line of credit and you tell them, I'm going to use this to go do investments or buy more property, they will not let you do it. So you cannot say, and I'm not giving any specific advice. I'm just saying they will literally tell you it has to be for improvements. It's got to be for other rainy day kind of stuff. So if you ever get a home equity line of credit, always tell them, hey, this is for, rainy day. This is for other things, whatever. You can't say, I'm going to use it for this purpose of going and getting more. Do you have an experience here on that? I obviously no specific advice, but anybody have anything they want to say on that?
On the question?
Yeah.
Nothing specific other than Stephen. We often don't count your the home that you live in as part of your real estate portfolio. It can be a source of wealth, a source of capital at least. But the way we make money from real estate is two ways. Cash flow and capital appreciation upon liquidation. So, there's a lot of other ways other than owning your home and getting a HELOC, but Bronson gave you the best advice. Go to a different bank, tell them it's for a rainy day, then you can go buy a piece of rental real estate with it, maybe.
And we're not telling you to take on more leverage or whatever. There's some definitely risk there. But I will also say this. I think right now, and we're not doing, we are doing some real estate deals, but real estate is tough to find cash flow in now. It's tough to make money now in real estate. You got to have a long-term approach. There are other things, buying businesses, oil and gas, other things. We just put a publication out of my 3 favorite cash flow investments of today, because it's changed in real estate a bit.
Yes. I think for me, one of the things I'd want to add is double check that your home isn't actually making the appreciation you're looking for. Because if you have a leverage on your home and then you look at how much you put down on the home and then you look at how much it's appreciated, do the simple math. Okay, so I bought it for 100,000 or I bought it for $1 million and it's appreciated by, 100,000 over that time period. Especially if you bought it for 100,000 and now it's worth 100,000, you divide that, you take that 100,000, divide it by the number of years, divide it by the money you have sitting in it. That is your appreciation. That is your return on equity sitting in the home you have. So double check that first before you start moving money out of it. That you might already be earning returns on what you have. Then do the math on how much you want to pull out of it so that it cash flows. Right? Or I can afford that payment without putting myself at risk. Right? Then you can talk about getting a line on it. So I just always encourage doing the math first. As an investment advisor, I always like to do the math first. I want to understand my math and the way it's going to work before I just take a good idea and implement it.
I love it. We're kind of getting to the end of our time here. Just I want to make sure we're on time for everyone. I encourage you guys to reach out to Christina and to Tom, but let's have you guys just give a little wrap of how people can connect with you and follow what you're doing. Let's start with Tom.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy. You can just go to the website. It's just richdoctor.com, RICHDOCTOR. We've got a lot of free resources on the website. I've got a newsletter that I put out once a week. And if anybody wants to email me, it's hello@richdoctor.com.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to put something in the chat here too. I've got a free, my 3 favorite cash flowing investments of 2025. I'm going to throw that in there. Christina, what's the way people can get in touch with you and follow what you're doing?
Get in touch with me is easy. It's Christina@ChristinaSuter.com. Very straightforward. If you want a free giveaway, ChristinaSuter.com. It pops up a screen, free giveaway. It's easy. So I think the title of it is something like, "You Think You Don't Have Time or Money to Invest in Real Estate." It's about a 25-page, easy read document that talks about how you can invest in real estate, whether you feel like you don't have the time but you have the money, or if you don't have the money but you have time. There are solutions for both of you guys there. And my cell phone, because I actually give it away because people actually rarely call me. So 310-463-5942. That is my actual cell phone number, 310-463-5942. Text me because I don't answer calls I don't know. But would you please, would you please put that in the chat? Sure, not a problem. Bronson can take care of that, and he knows my phone number. Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat about real estate strategies. Let's talk, because, again, my belief is that our self-esteem doesn't come from the amount of money we have in the bank. Our self-esteem comes from the commitment.
Can you put your phone in the chat? Just put it in there so I don't have it off
okay. All right. I thought you knew my phone number off the top of your head, Bronson.
I do call you a lot, but
you do.
Just drop it in there just so people have it.
Don't worry about it. 5942. Okay, there we go, guys. Wealth comes from the commitment to build wealth, interior wealth, life wealth, peace in one's mind, being able to enjoy the rest of the abundance that the planet has for us, our loved ones, our relationships, a beautiful walk, the capacity to know that our home is good and sound. Just peace comes from the commitment of, I'm going to have a life that is abundant. I'm going to have a life that's wealthy, and I'm going to get myself there.
I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, appreciate both of you. Thanks for being here. Great chat today. This will be sent out as a replay. Please feel free to share it. So grateful for our audience that's coming in. Please give them some love for doing this. Troy, you will receive an email that has this. It also will be on our YouTube channel. So we have every month. We've been doing this now for 4 years. Next month, we do have an awesome event. Let me just make you a quick announcement for that, just so you have it on your calendar. That's going to be July 15th at this time. It's going to be the 2025 Alternative Asset Summit. We've got Patrick Grimes, Ryan Gibson from Spartan, Karin Hall, and Courtney Moeller talking about oil and gas. So we're going to have a really great crowd. So make sure you put that on your calendar, 4 p.m. Pacific on the 15th of July.
That's a great lineup, Bronson. A lot of different perspectives from people who are very knowledgeable and ethical in their field. Yeah, nice.
For sure. Awesome, guys. Well, lots of love. We'll look forward to catching you guys soon. And please reach out if you need anything. Reach out to all of us. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being here. Spend the evening with us. Thank you, Christina. And we'll see all of our audience again soon. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you.